Wendy, 35 years ago, you founded Teach for America with a vision, which then later grew into a global network. And as you stand here today at the 10th anniversary celebration of Teach for Slovakia, and we went through 2 days of the celebrations now, what would you first thoughts or emotions be it and come to your mind and when we look at this community?
I am so inspired, honestly. It's giving me energy to see where Teach for Slovakia is 10 years in. It's exactly where I would hope it would be, like when I think about what it is that we're trying to do all over the world. We think of our purpose, as you know, as being to develop what we've come to call collective leadership for ensuring all kids fulfill their potential, by which we mean, we're working to generate and contribute to a critical mass of people who are working throughout the whole ecosystem around kids, some in classrooms, some in school leadership roles, some in the ministry, some innovating from the outside, advocating for change from the outside, who are all on the same mission, who have networks and relationships with each other and with other allies throughout the system, who are stepping up from their individual pursuits and reflecting and learning together. That we know that that's what changes systems in the end. Nothing else does. It's people who change systems. And I can see the collective leadership emerging from your efforts in partnership, of course, with many other actors in the system. Mm-hmm. But it's just very inspiring.
Mm-hmm. We want to go back to the Slovak story, but let me for a moment now derail. This term collective leadership has been with the Teach for All movement for the last 10 plus years. And the word leadership resonates very much with us in Central and Eastern Europe, taking into account that history, the word collective needs maybe a little bit more interpretation. So why don't we redefine it or explain a bit more? What's the key thing about collective leadership in achieving the aim of educational equity?
Yeah. When we came together as a network to consider our strategic foundations, this is maybe 10 years ago, we were reflecting on our biggest challenge as a network, which is to help people understand that this is not about 2 years. It's about 2 years and every year after the 2 years and what happens over time. And so we were reflecting on how we need to help people understand that this is about developing leadership. But then we ran into the common challenge that people have these perceptions about that word leadership, and they assume that we mean one person at the top of a hierarchy. And that's not what we mean. We mean anyone can exercise and must exercise leadership. It's about people exercising agency. And so we added the word collective to communicate that, to communicate that we mean everyone. We need to get to the point where we have people everywhere in the system.
Meaning people leading together to execute a change.
Together, collective, together, so that we need a lot of individual leadership, and we need people at every level of the system, inside the system and outside the system, exercising agency and leadership. But we need to be working together, pulling ourselves up, building relationships with each other, reflecting and learning together to inform individual pursuits and collaborations and collective efforts that we need to undertake to really get where we're trying to go.
After during these 10 years since the Teach for Slovakia or Teach in Slovakia was founded, we went through the epidemics, and we are now going through very fast changes. And now I'm not speaking so much about the political changes, even the, I would say, big tests of democracies, but rather about the changes in technology, AI and others, which might all pose significant challenges towards the idea of bridging the gap, because all these things have got also potential even widening the gap between those who have access to and those who don't have access to. So how are we facing the challenges worldwide, and what should be our first thoughts when thinking about them?
I guess the thing that comes to mind as you talk about all the changes in the world are how much more important. It was always been important, but I just think, if we don't change what happens in our classrooms, how are we going to put ourselves on a different trajectory in the world? Meaning, when we really think about all the challenges today's young people will face and will need to navigate, from environmental degradation to the massively changing economy. Oh, I thought they were knocking, but no. We need to be developing our young people today as leaders themselves, as collective leaders themselves, so that they can navigate all this and shape a better future for themselves, like shape meaningful careers in a changing economy and solve these increasingly complex problems and improve our collective welfare, which means that we basically need to not only work for equity within today's system, but really reshape the system overall towards a different purpose, towards developing students holistically, like their sense of agency and awareness and connectedness to each other and to planet, and their academic mastery and ability to leverage knowledge to solve problems and think critically and all. So it's a tall task, but it never has felt more important. And it should be of such consequence, right? Like, we need to change what happens in classrooms today, and within just a few years, that has the potential to put us on a very different trajectory within communities and our countries and our world.
These digital and technological challenges are going to stay here. One of my experiences is that when in a classroom where you got many kids who didn't get everything that they should have got in the first couple of years, they are facing with teachers who basically look at them and say, okay, so probably these kids will never make it. And they let themselves to get resigned over the kids, as opposed to those teachers who look at these kids and say, okay, guys, it will be difficult, but I believe in you, and I believe in you maybe more than you believe in yourself. And maybe even academically, I believe in you more than even your family is able to believe, because I can imagine what they might not be able to imagine. How important is this faith?
I think it's the most important thing, right? Like, we all need teachers and people who believe in us. And I think that's the most important thing. I mean, we think about many people, many organizations in the world try to develop teachers by starting with what do teachers need to do in the classroom. But what we've learned is that teachers' underlying beliefs about their students and about themselves. And about their communities make the biggest difference. So we have to start there, and then out of that will come the teacher actions we need.
Yeah, I like to call it sometimes hard and smart. Being able meaning focusing on skills, competencies, maybe a lot of frameworks and tools with which we should be working, and obviously there is no way to skip that. At the same time, if we don't work on the heart, and that's the beliefs, and also things like courage, and the positive vision, then a lot of these skills are at the end of the day almost empty.
That resonates.
Now, you have been in this mission for 35 years. Many people say that that's actually time when you could have changed 4 to 5 times already your career. You change a career from Teach for America to Teach for All, but you didn't change your mission.
Right.
You only widened it. It's your life's work. Still at the beginning, though. So, and we are facing, some would argue, dark times on many levels. So what personally gives you energy and optimism to keep going, even when we see that the change is so complex and so non-linear, as we talked today, and it might take really time, maybe even above our lives.
First of all, I feel so lucky to have found my way to this so early, because it gave me the chance to, well, over many years, to go through the learning journey and have the potential, with many, many, many other people, make a really meaningful difference against a very important problem.
If I may say so, 24 years old,
21.
21.
Yeah.
Young woman, almost a girl, with crazy vision, which is reshaping the world.
Well, I never could have dreamed that I would. I thought it was going to be like a 3-year thing, by the way. Can you imagine? Like at that point, 3 years are the rest of your life. So, But I feel so lucky and honestly privileged to do this work every day. I think what as I may have said earlier today, I feel like I'm probably in the easiest position to play the long game, because I every day get to see evidence that this approach of ours is working. Like it's working somewhere. Like you see a piece of evidence from some part of the world. And so as much as the challenge is immense and we're reminded of that and see evidence of that every day, it's juxtaposed against real evidence that we can make a difference against it. And I think it's that juxtaposition that's kept me going.
So basically dreaming high, but also standing with your feet on the ground.
Yeah.
Another metaphor which could be used here is some kind of finding the balance between a series of short sprints and the ability to run the marathon. And we in Slovakia here have been very much inspired by Angela Duckworth's grit concept as a thing which even we test with our applicants to the program. So how do you balance it? Maybe even in a very practical way. People who are in this program or close to this program will be also interested in you as a person. How you are able to balance this demand of both short sprints, so because you are a sprinter, but also longer runs because you have to run these series of marathons.
I think over time, first of all, I've found we need to take care of ourselves, and this work will take everything if we let it. So we have to figure out what we need in order to be able to run the marathon. And for me, I know what I need. I mean, I've got to have my daily run, and
literally.
I mean, if I didn't just create that rule for myself, it would get overrun every day by email volume, right? I have a very supportive husband. I lucked into a husband who, really believes this work is important, like thinks it's important for the world that I do this, and thinks our kids are better off because I'm on a mission, and that has been invaluable. I have a really supportive set of kids who are just a huge amount of fun. And that's all very important in the background, I would say. I also think, I have these routines around reflection.
That's what I wanted to ask. Yes, habits and routines.
Yeah. Every year I take 2 weeks off at the end of the summer, and the only thing I do other than sleep and run and relax on the beach and have fun with family is think through like the last year and what my big priorities are in the year ahead. That's such important time. And then I have, at every month and then every week and every day, I'm taking time to reflect on, okay, how are we doing against the big rocks? And that time is so important.
And it's so important because when you are executive and running the day-to-day operations, you might so easy to get lost.
Yeah.
And so you find out that actually you doing those short sprints, you might actually be sprinting sometimes in a direction which is almost waste of energy.
Yes, exactly. That's what we've all learned, right? Like I think back over the journey and realize some of the things I spent so much time on, if I'd only stepped up and realized that didn't need to happen. I mean, I could have saved an enormous amount of time. So it's a good reflection point to make sure that we're really doing the things that truly most need to be done.
Okay. Other habits that you would encourage us. I'm putting so much emphasis on it because we see a lot of exhaustion, and we might still not be at the end of those, which I called maybe a little bit overdramatically darker times. So we need to support each other, and we need to be able to give hope and vision for meaningful change to each other. So I'm asking about what keeps your head above the water.
You know, for so many years, I was just going at it without any professional help. I mean, I found my way to a coach. That's been incredible. And I've had a couple of really meaningful coaching relationships. You know, both of whom like really have helped me unpack like where are my triggers coming from and how do I step up above it all and be my most open and full self. And that's been so important. And I've seen that that's really important for others as well. I mean, even knowing the impact that's had for me has helped me think differently about how to work with others.
And then there's the circle of friends, and both the professional friends, personal friends, and to using a different classes, unconditional friends, but also critical friends. I heard you during these 2 days mention a couple of names from Andreas Schleicher to Jim Collins, whom you were even entitled to call your friends. I don't know in which of these categories, like being able to talk to them, being able to get inspired by them.
No, there have been so many people, including those two, who are just, I think of them as allies. I mean, they're such deep supporters. And they're always there to be helpful and give either critical or positive feedback. And there have been so many people along the way. I was saying earlier, I never do feel alone. I mean, there's so many CEOs and whatnot who say it's lonely at the top. I don't feel that. I feel I'm just surrounded by so many people who are all on the same mission, who feel real responsibility for this effort. And you know, I think that's really important in, you know, everyone's there to pick each other up, I guess, when the going gets really tough.
Celebrating now the 10th anniversary of Teach in Slovakia means also that we have got the luxury to pause the time, just momentarily, just briefly, and reflect also on the fact that we have been able to acquire a lot of talent. The whole Teach concept is about being able to acquire talent and giving this talent, giving these individuals and whole groups choice of taking, I don't know which is the right color, red pill, blue pill, whatever, so that they don't necessarily follow the careers only to improve their own lives. But to give and to commit their careers to something bigger. Now it's the 10th anniversary. So in 2035, let's imagine that we will be celebrating the 20th anniversary of Teach for Slovakia. Still, much younger brother of Teach for America, and many of other programs in this community. What would you expect? Think and dream to see in how we have used those great resources and talent in this country so that we achieve the mission, which is so close to what you started this program 35 years ago.
First of all, I talked to so many people who were at your gathering. And not only people inside the tent, like supporters, allies from outside, who said things have really shifted in the last 10 years for any number of reasons, not only because of Teach and teach for Slovakia, but in part because of all the people and all the energy that you've brought in the system. And they keep talking about this shift. Like there's so much energy. There's so much collaboration happening. There are people in the ministry working with people in the schools. Like there has been an ecosystem shift. And to your point about pausing and reflecting, like that is a huge accomplishment. It is tough to get our systems to be unstuck and to start continuously improving. So that's giving me a lot of optimism about the next 10 years. And what I would hope for is that you all will, and I know you will, like keep your foot on the pedal, first of all, in keeping the next generation coming in. Like we need the next generation to add to the ranks in this effort. And then to also keep connected the people who have already taught and committed, and to keep everyone coming together and pulling up from the individual pursuits and having the debates and the discussions and the collective reflection and continuing to ask the question of what more do we need to be doing in order to get where we're trying to go.
I like the analogy of keeping food on the pedal, which means that's the bike analogy. Now today we are in the age of electric bikes, of course. So what are the electric supportive engines that we could add to our feet on the pedals?
You know, I think that this question of how do we build the muscle to pull ourselves up and have these and reflect together and learn together and ask ourselves what more needs to be done. I've found that it sounds very easy, but it's harder to do because we're all very busy with our individual pursuits and growing families and all of this. But I've really seen, like, that's the one thing I think we could do that would speed up the pace of change. Like, because it's just hard and it takes a long time no matter what to develop people. Like the whole adult development project, recruiting people, developing them, they need to go on their journeys. But the thing that we could do to speed up the pace of change, I think it relates back to your point about make sure your effort is going in the right direction. Otherwise, we could all be pointing in different directions and not make the kind of progress we have the potential to make. So it's the very idea of collective leadership, like the idea that we're going to be stronger together than individually. And that includes listening to each other's diverse perspectives so that we're pressure testing our ideas and making sure that we're being as strategic as possible.
It's also going back to Martin Buber has got this analogy of me and you, and that I actually am developing myself in dialogue with yourself, and I am almost incomplete. I can't complete myself without being able to get into interaction with you yourself. So is this one of the basis grounds from which the collective leadership can grow?
I think that's the idea. I mean, I've really seen firsthand that, this work is very humbling in that you realize the things one year you were confident in, there are things we're not even thinking of, right? And so you start realizing the limitations of any one person's perspective, no matter how switched on they are. So it takes all of us. Like the only way to speed up progress is to get the diverse perspectives in the room and make sure we're all thinking together.
So it's the wisdom of Wendy Kopp is that don't rely only upon the wisdom of Wendy Kopp.
Yes, exactly. It takes our collective wisdom to get where we're trying to go as fast as possible.
This podcast is going to be heard also by people who might be considering joining the program. Maybe they heard for the first time, or they heard maybe a couple of times but are not sure. Maybe by teachers who feel frustrated and alone in the system. So give us the words of not only hope, but maybe like things why we should either not feel frustrated or even we should feel encouraged by the possibilities we have.
Wait, and you're asking about the people thinking about joining the program or the people in the program, or both?
I was going now for the first, a little bit more for those from outside.
from outside.
From outside,
Yeah.
who might be thinking about it, and they might be also among current students.
Yes. Okay.
For teachers and of course,
because I really want to talk
non-teachers.
to that group, like the next generation, the people who are thinking maybe not. So I guess I'm going to speak to the people who want to be part of the change in Slovakia, because that's not everyone. And it's so important, right? But to the people who are thinking, okay, I want to be part of the change, but I don't know. Is it through this? And I would say, just be sure, like, if you want to be part of the change in your country, and remember that with enough leadership, we can change anything. So we need the next generation committing to this country. Just be sure that you put yourself in proximity with the reality of this country, because only through that will you have the perspective, the insights, gain the skills, the relationships, the credibility to actually make the change happen.
So it's in our first cohort. I still remember our first participants who started 12 years ago, actually, or maybe even more. They met at that time President Kiska in his presidential palace, and the next maybe week or in 2 weeks' time, they were in the most difficult circumstances, facing their kids in sometimes underdeveloped classrooms. And you say that that's the life lesson.
I think it is. And one of your former presidents said last night, thank you for recognizing that in order to change Slovakia, you need to start by changing yourself. And I thought that was so powerful.
Wendy Kopp, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I can't wait to come back and see where things are in 2035.